I care that being and becoming an atheist can be very difficult in some families and communities, and that being a young atheist who's already struggling with the problems of growing up is also struggling with, you know, the most important fundamental celestial and existential questions, and that very act of skepticism, may not be very popular with their friends. I care that the leaders and anybody in this world makes rational, evidence-based conclusions instead of relying on supernatural dogma. My name is Jacob Kramer. I'm a founding member of Support Atheism. I admin the atheist page, the largest one that's on Facebook, and I also serve as Vice President of Outreach and Communications for the National Atheist Party. My coming out story is not true dramatic. I grew up in a small rural area. My parents weren't very religious, or at least they didn't talk about it in the home. I did have religious family and religious community. I went to vacation Bible school a few times. I was made to go to church with some family friends. You know, and all the time, I don't know if I could ever classify myself as a believer. It always kind of was a little cultish and weird to me. The time my grandparents took me up and people were laying hands on me, it freaked me out. There's pictures sometimes of some guy being tortured. You know, but eventually I was kind of indoctrinated with the Jesus story and somewhat with the hell myth, and you know, those things did kind of take hold on me. Those were something that I had to work through. You know, so you know, all this time this book was there. I wasn't getting chapter and verse. There was nothing too extreme, but this was an influence in my life. It wasn't until about the time I was in junior high, I believe, it was some night in my 7th or 8th grade year when I was sitting there and struggling with this belief. And I felt like I had to kind of make some decision. If I believed in this, then I had to devote myself to it because it was the threat of hell, as playing a Pascal's wager in my head. But I'd also grown up kind of doubting some of these things. I was always a huge reader. From about 3rd grade on, you know, I read all of the Greek and Roman mythologies, and I thought to myself, these things are very similar. You know, I didn't have a huge education about other religions, so I wasn't kind of accessing it through that. But I found myself questioning. And the thing that brought me to no longer accepting religion was that hell myth. And it wasn't that I thought too much of myself and that I didn't deserve hell. It was human empathy. It was imagining that my father, who didn't attend church, that he would go to hell, or my friends, or people I cared about, or people that I knew were good people, but wouldn't make it into heaven based on the stories that I'd been told in church. And from that point on, I realized whether God existed or not, my natural human empathy and sense of what is right and what's wrong would not allow me to believe. So it was my passion for other human beings that led me on the road to atheism. You know, it was still a long road. I played the agnostic card, the I'm spiritual card, maybe kind of dabble with deism, and through into college. But then, you know, as in college, you get exposed to a lot of ideas. I read about other religions, such as the Bhagavad Gita, read Siddhartha, things like that, study Eastern religions. I also kind of got more of an education in science, so, you know, was kind of first exposed to quantum physics and cosmology, you know, Brief History of Time and Stephen Hawking, and these are things I found beautiful. I found somewhat spiritual. So I kind of was an Einsteinian atheist for a while, although I still wasn't willing to call myself that. You know, so it wasn't on about until the time I was 25, 24, when I read the God Delusion. That just allowed me to admit who I was. It didn't change my mind, but it gave me a foundational education on, you know, certain evolution and biology, things that I kind of knew, but it put everything together. And it also made the case as to why, you know, it was important to say I'm an atheist and to take a stand for yourself and just to be open and honest about it. You know, furthermore, you know, I became an atheist activist through being on Atheist, the Facebook page, and hearing people's stories about Muslims, girls being in a forced marriage with somebody who molested them, you know, a gay Catholic boy being bullied in a school, and just tons of people felt isolated and ostracized by their families and communities. And from that point on, you know, shortly my wife became pregnant with my daughter, Elena, right here, making noise. And from those experiences, you know, I became to help that Muslim girl who was molested. And not everybody in my life was supportive of that. But I just had to ask myself that if that was my daughter, and she was in that situation, I would hope somebody somewhere in the world would help her. And through that experience and through all the other ones I've had, I realized that there is a call and a need for, right, she agrees, for community, atheist community, and compassion, reaching out to each other and building networks. And I hope that you will do that on your own part. Join up with us at supportatheism.com. Try to push in your political sphere, be becoming active in your own party, or joining the National Atheist Party. I think it's very important. I think historically, this is the moment where we start to take that stand that other groups and minorities have done before, where we push for a more rational world and a more beautiful world, in my opinion. Thank you very much.